To get rid of the modal and the backdrop now, we need to change the state again. From setModalIsOpen true to false. We need to call setModalIsOpen again and pass false as a value. The problem just is, when do we want to do that? We want to do that when the backdrop is clicked or when the cancel or confirm buttons are clicked. We don't want to do that if the modal itself is clicked, for example. Now for the backdrop click, you could think that on backdrop you simply add on click again, and then we add a second function here, the close modal handler, let's say. And there we call setModalIsOpen and set this to false. And then we point at this close modal handler here as a value for onClick, just as we did it with the button in the end. But that won't work. If we save that and I reload, I can click the backdrop the entire day, the modal won't close. The reason for this is that the backdrop, like the modal, is our own component. These are not built-in components. So they don't know the onClick prop. Our own components have to be configured 100% by us. They have no built-in props which we can use. To be precise, they actually do, but only for some very special cases and not for event listeners like this. So if you want to make sure that an onClick prop exists in the backdrop component, we have to add code to this component function to support this prop. And for this, we can go to the component function and accept this props argument here, this props parameter. And then here, we can of course work with an onClick prop or any other name we want. It's totally up to you because it's our component. But here we can, for example, expect an onClick prop because I'm setting this here in the to-do component. And we actually expect a function as a value on this onClick prop. Because in the to-do component, I do pass in a function in the end. I point at a function, which means I pass a pointer to the function as a value for this prop. Now, in the backdrop component, we actually want to call this function, which we receive on the onClick prop, when this div is clicked. Now, the div is a built-in component again, so it does have onClick prop. And now we could simply point at props onClick as a value here. By doing this, we would in the end forward the function which we receive on our props here, on our onClick prop, into that div on its onClick prop. And these names don't have to be equal. We could expect an onCancel prop here instead, and in to-do component rename this to onCancel. It's our component, so we can name this however we want. Now, if we do that and save all the files, if I reload, now we can close the modal by clicking the backdrop. Because now we're using a prop to pass a function as a value. And that's a pattern which can be confusing and might look strange at first, but keep in mind that in JavaScript, functions are first-class objects. You can pass them around as values just as you can pass strings and arrays and objects and numbers as values. Hence, you can pass a function as an argument to another function and therefore also as a value for a prop to another component. And then that function which we receive in that component can be executed in that component, or, as we're doing it here, it can be forwarded to yet another element, another component. Now we can use that same approach in the modal component for canceling and confirming. There we could add functions like the cancel handler and then let's say the confirm handler and kick off different logic depending on which button was clicked. But in this case, I'll simply in the end run the same code in both functions. Nonetheless, we can bind the first button with the onClick prop to cancel handler. And here it has to be onClick because that's not a custom component, but a built-in one. So here we can't come up with any other name. And for the confirm button, I'll also add onClick and point at the confirm handler. And now in these functions, we can run any code we want. In this case though, I also wanna just close the modal. So again, I'll just accept the props parameter here. And in cancel handler, I'll just execute props on cancel, let's say. In the confirm handler, I'll execute props on confirm. And hence, instead of defining these functions here and pointing at them here, we could have also just forwarded props on cancel here like this, just as we did it for the backdrop. I'm just showing this alternative approach to make it crystal clear that you can execute these functions which you receive through props. You can forward them to other elements if that's what you need to do, but you can also execute them anywhere in your components. And hence I'm using this alternative setup with these extra wrapper functions at which I then point here. And now we got an onCancel and an onConfirm prop, which are expected on that modal component. So in the place where we use the modal component, we should add onCancel and onConfirm. And here in both cases, I'll just point at the close modal handler, because as mentioned before, here I got no special logic, I just want to close the modal. With that, if we save this and reload, we can not just close the modal by clicking the backdrop, but also by clicking cancel or by clicking confirm. And that works for every to-do here. For all to-dos, the modal works in the same way. And that's therefore another very important building block of React. Props are important for building reusable components. State is important for changing what we see on the screen dynamically, for adding or removing elements, for changing text on the screen, or, like in this case, for showing and hiding an overlay.